The transport vessel docked with a soft, almost polite vibration, as if even machinery in this part of the galaxy understood it was approaching something important. He remained seated a moment longer than necessary, staring at the faint reflection of himself in the curved alloy wall. The jacket rested on his shoulders like it always did. Familiar, worn at the edges, stubbornly comfortable. He tugged at the collar, not because it needed adjusting, but because it gave his hands something to do while his thoughts circled. "First time meeting a queen?" the pilot asked from the cockpit, not turning around. He exhaled slowly. "First time meeting anyone who has guards that look like they could arrest gravity." "That's accurate," the pilot said. "Try not to make jokes." "I make jokes when I'm nervous." "Then try not to be nervous." He considered that for a second. "I'll add it to my list of things I'm bad at." The hatch opened with a smooth hiss, and the air that drifted in carried a strange, sterile sweetness. Not unpleasant, just curated. Like someone had decided what air should feel like, and then engineered it accordingly. He stepped out, boots clicking softly against the luminous floor, which responded to each step with a faint ripple of light. It felt like walking across something that was quietly paying attention to him. Two guards stood at the end of the docking corridor. Tall, motionless, their armor seamless and reflective, their faces unreadable beneath smooth visors. He gave them a small nod, the kind you give strangers when you're not sure if they're going to greet you or vaporize you. Neither nodded back. "Friendly place," he muttered. One of them gestured, a precise, economical movement. "Follow." He followed. The palace unfolded around him in layers of impossible architecture. Arches that curved into each other without visible support. Walls that shimmered with embedded data streams, and ceilings so high they seemed less like structures and more like suggestions. Every surface felt deliberate, as if nothing existed there by accident. He kept his pace steady, resisting the urge to look around too much. He had learned over time that looking impressed could be interpreted as weakness. Looking unimpressed, however, could be interpreted as stupidity. The trick was to appear like you had seen worse and expected better. He had not seen worse. He definitely did not expect better. "Relax," he whispered to himself. "It's just a meeting." A meeting with a queen whose people had once negotiated peace treaties by demonstrating how efficiently they could dismantle a fleet. A queen whose name had a tendency to make experienced diplomats forget basic sentence structure. Just a meeting. They entered a vast chamber, and the sound of his footsteps seemed to disappear entirely, swallowed by the space. Figures stood along the edges. Advisors, officials, beings whose roles were not immediately clear, but whose presence carried weight. He could feel their attention settle on him. Not hostile, but sharp, measuring. He resisted the urge to check if his jacket was on correctly. It was. Of course it was. The guard stopped. He stopped with them. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then the far end of the chamber shifted, not physically but perceptually, as if the room itself adjusted to make space for someone more important than architecture. She entered without announcement, without ceremony, and yet the effect was immediate. The queen. She looked at first glance human. That was the unsettling part. The familiarity, the symmetry of her face, the calm precision of her movements. But then the details emerged. Her long ears, elegant and unmistakably alien. The subtle glow beneath her skin, as if light moved through her veins. The way her presence seemed to carry its own gravity. She walked toward him, and the room followed her, not in movement, but in attention. He straightened slightly, reminding himself not to stare. He failed, but only briefly. Her gaze met his, steady, unreadable. For a second, he thought this might go smoothly. A simple exchange. Questions, answers, polite nods, and then he would leave with a story no one would fully believe. Her eyes shifted, not to his face, to the jacket. She stopped. It was not a dramatic stop. No sudden motion, no visible shock. But something in the air changed, subtle and immediate, like a system encountering an unexpected variable. Her gaze locked onto the fabric, tracing it with a focus that felt personal. Too personal. He glanced down instinctively, as if expecting to find something unusual about it. It looked the same as it always had, slightly worn, undeniably his, or so he thought. Silence stretched. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full of something waiting to be said. When she finally spoke, her voice was controlled, but not untouched. "This jacket," she said slowly, each word measured, as if verifying its own existence, "belongs to my husband." He blinked, once, then again, just to make sure the universe hadn't misaligned itself. "I'm going to be honest," he said carefully, lifting a hand in a small, uncertain gesture. "That would be very surprising to both of us." The room did not react. The guards did not react. No one laughed. He nodded slightly to himself. "Right. Tough crowd." Her eyes remained on the jacket, unblinking now, as if it might disappear if she looked away. "How did you obtain it?" she asked. He hesitated, not because he didn't have an answer, but because suddenly the answer didn't feel simple anymore. "It was on a ship," he said, "drifting, no crew, no logs, just things left behind. This was one of them." Her expression did not change, but something behind it shifted. "You are certain?" she asked. He looked down at the jacket again, then back at her. "I mean," he said, attempting a small, cautious smile, "I don't usually keep track of intergalactic ownership records, but yes, that's where I found it." Another silence. He exhaled softly. "If I accidentally stole a royal wardrobe item, I should probably apologize now before this turns into a very formal misunderstanding." No one moved. No one spoke. And for the first time since stepping into the palace, he began to suspect that the jacket on his shoulders was not just a jacket anymore. No one spoke for several seconds after his last sentence, and the silence no longer felt ceremonial. It felt investigative, as if the room itself had leaned in to study him more closely. He shifted his weight slightly, immediately aware that even that small movement seemed louder than it should have been. The queen finally lifted her gaze from the jacket, though not entirely. It was as if part of her attention remained fixed on it, unwilling to fully detach. "You said the vessel was drifting," she said. "Yes." "Unregistered?" "Yes." "Abandoned?" He hesitated. "I mean, technically, unless the owner was just very committed to a long walk." A faint murmur passed through the gathered figures, quickly suppressed. He caught it and raised an eyebrow slightly. "That was a joke. I'm told those are allowed in some systems." The queen did not smile, but something in her expression shifted again, less rigid, more curious. "Describe the ship," she said. He exhaled, relieved to have something practical to focus on. "Older design, not ancient but not current either. Hull integrity was surprisingly good considering. No visible damage, no signs of struggle, just empty. Like whoever was there decided to leave without taking anything with them." "That is not how abandonment works," one of the advisors said sharply. He glanced toward the voice. "I agree. Usually people at least take their favorite mug." The advisor did not appreciate that. The queen raised a hand slightly, silencing the interruption without looking. Her attention returned to him. "And the jacket," she said. "Where was it?" "In a storage compartment," he replied. "Not locked, not hidden, just placed there. Folded." Her eyes narrowed slightly at that. "Folded?" "Yes." He paused, then added, "Very neatly, I should mention. Whoever owned it either had excellent organizational skills or a deep emotional attachment to symmetry." A faint flicker of something almost resembling amusement, touched her expression and vanished just as quickly. "Show me," she said. He blinked. "Here. Remove it." He glanced around the room, then back at her. "You know where I'm from. Asking someone to take off their jacket in a room full of armed guards usually means something has gone very wrong." "It is a request," she said calmly. He considered that for a second. That sounded a lot like an order. A pause. "It is both." He nodded once. "Fair enough." He reached up, fingers brushing the familiar fabric, and for a brief moment, something unexpected flickered through his mind. Not a thought exactly, more like a feeling, a hesitation that didn't belong to him. He ignored it. Probably just nerves. He slipped the jacket off, and held it carefully, suddenly aware that it no longer felt like just his. One of the guards stepped forward, but the queen raised her hand again, stopping them. "No," she said quietly. "He will bring it." He looked between them, then took a few steps forward, each one measured, conscious. The luminous floor reacted beneath him again, soft ripples of light following his movement, as if marking his approach. When he reached her, he hesitated for half a second. "Just to clarify," he said, holding the jacket out, "this is the part where I hand it over and nothing explodes, correct?" "It will not explode," she replied. "That's exactly what someone would say if it might explode." A faint, unmistakable breath of amusement escaped from somewhere behind him. Quickly silenced, he chose to interpret that as a victory. The queen took the jacket. Her fingers brushed the fabric with a precision that felt almost reverent. She turned it slightly, examining the seams, the wear, the subtle marks left by time. Her expression, controlled until now, shifted again, this time unmistakably. Recognition, not intellectual, personal. Her grip tightened, just slightly. "This is his," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. The room remained still. He watched her carefully, his usual humor momentarily set aside. "You're very sure?" "I do not make mistakes like this." He nodded slowly. "Good, because that would make this situation a lot more confusing than it already is." She did not respond immediately. Instead, she traced a specific point along the inner lining, her fingers pausing there as if they had found something important. "Come here," she said. He stepped closer, leaning slightly to see. "There," she said, tilting the fabric just enough for him to notice. At first it looked like nothing, just a faint irregularity in the stitching. Then he saw it, a pattern, subtle, almost invisible, not decorative, not random, intentional. "I didn't notice that before," he said quietly. "Because it is not meant to be noticed," she replied. He studied it for a moment longer, then glanced at her. "I'm going to guess this isn't just a fashion choice." "No." Her voice was softer now, but more focused. "This is encoded." He leaned back slightly. "Of course it is." A small pause. "I feel like I should start expecting that everything I own has secret alien technology in it." No one responded. He sighed. "Still working on the humor thing." The queen ignored that, her attention fixed on the pattern. "This should not be here," she said. "Meaning?" "Meaning," she said, finally looking at him again. "If this jacket reached you, then something has gone very wrong." He crossed his arms instinctively, then realized his jacket was no longer on him, and awkwardly uncrossed them. "Well," he said, "I'm starting to get that impression." Another silence settled between them, heavier this time, filled with implications neither of them had fully articulated yet. He glanced at the jacket in her hands, then back at her. "So," he said carefully, "just out of curiosity, how long has your husband been missing?" Her gaze held his. "Long enough," she said, "that he should not be able to send messages anymore." He frowned slightly. "Messages?" She lifted the jacket just enough for him to see the encoded stitching again. "This," she said, "is not just a memory." A brief pause. "It is a signal." "A signal," he repeated slower this time, as if saying it differently might make it less complicated. "Right, because a normal jacket would have just pockets." No one laughed. He glanced around. "Still no. I'm going to keep trying." The queen did not look at him. Her attention remained fixed on the stitching, her fingers moving slightly as if tracing something only she could fully interpret. "It is layered," she said quietly, "not a simple transmission. Fragmented. Concealed." He leaned in again, squinting slightly. "I see lines. Very subtle lines. If I squint more, I might convince myself I understand them." "You do not need to understand them," she replied. "You need to explain how you came into possession of them." "I already did," he said, straightening. "Empty ship. No crew. No welcome message. Honestly, very disappointing customer service." An advisor stepped forward, robes shifting with a faint mechanical whisper. "Your tone suggests you do not grasp the severity of this situation." He turned his head slightly. "My tone is how I cope with the severity of situations. If I stop talking like this, that's when you should worry." The advisor seemed ready to respond, But the queen lifted her hand again, silencing him without effort. Enough, she said. The room obeyed instantly. She looked back at the human, her gaze sharper now, more focused than before. You will come with me. He blinked. That sounded less like a suggestion. It was not. He nodded once. Good. We're maintaining consistency. She turned without waiting for further response, the jacket still in her hands, and began walking toward a side passage that had not been visible a moment ago. The wall itself seemed to separate, forming an opening that emitted a soft, pulsing light. He hesitated, just for a second. Then he followed. The guards moved with him, silent and close enough to remind him that wandering off was not an option. The passage curved gently, leading them away from the vast openness of the throne chamber into something more contained, more controlled. This is the part where I ask if I'm being arrested, he said, keeping his voice low. You are not being arrested, the queen replied without turning. That's good. A short pause. Is there a version of this where I might be arrested later? No answer. He nodded to himself. I'll take the silence as a strong maybe. The corridor opened into a chamber unlike the others he had seen. This one was smaller, but far more complex. The walls were layered with shifting data structures, translucent panels overlapping each other, streams of information flowing in patterns that almost resembled thought. At the center stood a device. It was not large, but it carried presence. A circular structure, suspended slightly above the ground, composed of interlocking rings that rotated slowly around a core of concentrated light. He stopped walking. That, he said, pointing, looks like something I should not touch. You will not touch it, the queen said. Excellent. We are in agreement. She approached the device, holding the jacket carefully, as if the distance between them and the machine required precision. This system has not been used in years, she said. Because it's dangerous, he asked. Because it is personal. He tilted his head slightly. That sounds worse. She ignored that, positioning the jacket within a narrow field that extended from the core of the device. The moment the fabric crossed into it, the light shifted. Subtle at first, then more pronounced, reacting as if it had been waiting. He took a small step back. Just to be clear, he said, if this suddenly starts making loud noises, I'm going to assume that's bad. It will make noise, she said. Oh, good noise? No, he exhaled. I appreciate the honesty. The rings began to rotate faster, their movement no longer smooth, but deliberate. Lines of light extended outward, scanning the jacket, passing through it, mapping it in ways he could not fully comprehend. Then the sound started, not loud, but layered, a low hum beneath a sharper, almost melodic frequency, like something trying to resolve into clarity. He frowned slightly. That does not sound encouraging. It is reading the encoding, she said, and if it doesn't like what it reads, it does not have preferences. Right, of course. Why would it? The light intensified, and for a brief moment, the air itself seemed to distort, bending slightly around the device. Then something appeared, not solid, not fully formed, a projection, but not like any he had seen before. It was incomplete, fragmented, pieces of something trying to assemble itself from limited information, a shape, a figure. He stared at it, his usual commentary fading for once. That's, he started, then stopped. The queen did not speak. The figure flickered, unstable, its edges breaking apart and reforming, as if struggling to exist. A voice followed, faint, distorted. If this reaches you, the human's eyes widened slightly. Okay, I'm officially concerned now. The voice continued, uneven, interrupted by static-like interference. Not safe. Had to hide it. The queen stepped closer, her composure cracking just enough to be visible. Can it stabilize? She asked. No, one of the advisors replied from behind. The data is incomplete. The figure shifted again, its form distorting, but the voice pushed through, clearer for a moment. Trust? The carrier. The human blinked. The carrier? The figure turned slightly, toward him, not fully, not intentionally, but enough. He doesn't know. The projection flickered violently, the light around it collapsing inward as if the system could no longer sustain it. Find the rest. Then it was gone. The room fell silent again, but this silence was different, heavy, unavoidable. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. Well, he said, his voice quieter now, that answers absolutely none of my questions. The Queen did not respond immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the space where the projection had been, her expression no longer controlled, but something else entirely. Recognition, loss, and something sharper beneath it. She turned to him. You said you found the ship drifting, she said. Yes. Where? He hesitated, not because he didn't remember, but because suddenly it felt like the most important answer he had ever given. I can show you, he said. A brief pause. Then, because he couldn't stop himself, he added, but I'd like to point out, I did not sign up to be part of a mysterious message delivery system. The Queen held his gaze. You did not sign up, she said. Another pause. But you are already part of it. He let out a slow breath. Yeah, he said. I was afraid you were going to say that. The silence that followed the fading projection did not lift quickly. It settled into the room like a weight that no one was eager to move. He shifted his stance, glancing between the Queen and the now idle device, as if expecting it to suddenly apologize for the situation. Well, he said, finally clearing his throat, that was unsettling in a very professional, high-technology kind of way. No response. He nodded once. Good. Just checking. The Queen stepped closer to the device, her hand hovering just above the field where the jacket had been suspended moments ago. The light had dimmed, but it still pulsed faintly, like something thinking in slow motion. Can it be accessed again? She asked. One of the advisors moved forward, studying the system with careful precision. Not immediately. The structure destabilized after the final fragment. It will need recalibration. How long? A few hours, perhaps longer. The data we received was strained. He crossed his arms, then uncrossed them again out of habit. So we have a mysterious partial message, a disappearing husband, and now a machine that needs a nap. No one acknowledged that. He exhaled. I'm going to keep talking. It helps me. The Queen turned slightly, finally pulling her gaze away from the device. The jacket was still in her hand, held more carefully now, as if its weight had changed. You will take us to the ship, she said. He blinked. That was fast. There is no time to waste. There is always time to waste, he replied. People do it constantly. I've done it professionally. Her expression did not change. He sighed. Right. Urgency. I understand. One of the guards stepped closer, their presence suddenly more imposing than before. He glanced at them, then back at the Queen. Just to clarify, he said, this is still the part where I'm not being arrested, correct? You are not being arrested. Excellent. A pause. This is, however, the part where I don't really have a choice, isn't it? No. He nodded slowly. I appreciate the consistency. The advisor behind him spoke again, voice sharper this time. The coordinates you provide will be verified. If you are withholding information, I'm not, he interrupted, holding up a hand. If I were the kind of person who could successfully hide important information from an entire alien empire, I feel like my life choices would look very different right now. That earned him a brief, reluctant glance from one of the guards. He took it as progress. The Queen turned, moving toward the exit with a decision that left no room for hesitation. Prepare a vessel, she said. The command did not echo, but it moved. The room responded instantly, subtle shifts in the environment signaling that instructions had been received, processed, and set into motion. He followed again, because at this point, that seemed to be his primary role in life. The corridors they moved through were different now, less ceremonial, more functional. Panels slid open before them, pathways adjusting dynamically, as if the palace itself was optimizing their route. He tried not to look too impressed. Failed again. You know, he said as they walked, where I'm from, preparing a ship usually involves paperwork, delays, and at least one person forgetting what they were supposed to do. This is not where you are from, the Queen replied. That is becoming increasingly clear. They reached a large chamber that opened into space itself, though a transparent field held the atmosphere in place. Beyond it, stars stretched endlessly, distant and indifferent. A ship waited. It was not massive, but it carried a presence similar to everything else he had seen here. Efficient, precise, and slightly intimidating. Its surface reflected the starlight in subtle patterns, as if it were more than just metal. He stopped for a moment. That's ours? Yes. He nodded slowly. I like it. It looks like it wouldn't forgive me if I made a mistake. It would not. Good, I respect that. They approached the vessel, the ramp extending smoothly as they neared. He hesitated just before stepping on. Before we go, he said, turning slightly toward her, I feel like I should point out that the last time I saw that ship, it was very empty. Then we will see what has changed, she replied. He looked at her for a moment, studying her expression. Calm, controlled, but carrying something beneath it that hadn't been there before. Not just determination, expectation. He exhaled quietly. You really think we're going to find something? I know we will, she said. He considered that, then gave a small nod. All right. He stepped onto the ramp. The surface adjusted slightly under his weight, responding in ways he didn't fully understand. He resisted the urge to comment on it, failed. If the floor starts judging me, I'm leaving, he muttered. No one reacted. Inside, the ship was even more precise than the palace. No unnecessary space, no wasted movement. Everything had a purpose, and that purpose was clear even if he didn't fully understand it. He took a cautious step forward, then another, glancing around as the systems came to life. Lights activated in sequence, interfaces forming in the air, responding to the presence of the Queen. He looked at one of the floating panels, watching as data scrolled across it in a language he couldn't read. I'm assuming that says something important, he said. It does. Good. As long as someone understands it. The engines began to hum, a low, steady vibration that felt less like noise and more like intention. He turned slightly, looking back toward the open chamber, the palace beyond it. Then the field shifted. The stars outside changed position, not gradually but instantly, as if space itself had been adjusted to accommodate them. He blinked. Okay, he said slowly, gripping the nearest surface. I'm going to assume that was normal. It was. Good. A pause. I'm still going to be concerned about it. The ship moved, not through space but with it, and as the distance between them and the palace grew, he found himself glancing down at his hands, then at the place where the jacket had been. It felt strange without it. Not physically. Something else. He looked up again, toward the front of the ship, where the Queen stood, her attention fixed on the path ahead. Just out of curiosity, he said, his voice quieter now, when we get there, what exactly are we expecting to find? She did not turn. A truth, she said. He leaned back slightly, considering that. I was hoping for something simpler, he admitted. Another pause. Pretty like answers. She did not respond, and for the first time since this had started, he had the distinct feeling that whatever they were going to find, it wasn't going to make things easier. The ship did not travel in a way his mind could easily accept. There was no sensation of acceleration, no visible shift that matched the distance they were covering. One moment the stars outside formed a familiar pattern, and the next they were something else entirely, rearranged without transition. He kept his hand on the nearest surface, just in case reality decided to behave unpredictably again. I'm going to assume we're moving very fast, he said. We are not moving, the Queen replied. He blinked. That's worse. The space around us is being adjusted. He stared at her for a moment. Of course it is. A pause. I miss engines. Loud, inefficient, predictable engines. No one answered that. He shifted his weight, trying to look like someone who was comfortable with reality bending itself into new shapes. He was not succeeding. The interior of the ship remained quiet, but not empty. Systems moved constantly, panels adjusting, light patterns shifting, data flowing across translucent surfaces. It felt less like being inside a machine and more like being inside something that was thinking. He glanced at one of the floating interfaces again, Then at the Queen. If I press something, will it end badly? Yes. Good, I will not press anything. Another short silence. I am curious, though. That is not recommended. He nodded. That has been the theme of my day. The ship slowed, or at least, something about the environment suggested a transition. The stars outside stabilized, forming a fixed pattern again. He leaned forward slightly. Are we there? Yes. That was fast. It was necessary. He exhaled. I feel like I should be more impressed, but I'm mostly concerned about how easy that was. The front of the ship opened visually, the external field becoming transparent enough to reveal what lay ahead. The vessel, it floated exactly where he remembered it, silent, intact, and entirely out of place. Its surface showed no signs of damage, no indication that it had been abandoned under distress. It simply existed, waiting. There it is, he said quietly. The Queen stepped closer to the front, her gaze fixed on it with an intensity that felt almost physical. Confirm structure integrity, she said. One of the systems responded instantly, data shifting across the panels. Stable, came the reply from an unseen interface. No external interference detected. He tilted his head. That's comforting, I think. A small pause. It's also exactly what it looked like last time, which is less comforting. The ship they were in moved closer, not with visible propulsion, but with precise intention. The distance closed smoothly until the abandoned vessel filled their view. Up close, it looked even more deliberate. He frowned slightly. You ever get the feeling something is trying very hard to look normal? The Queen did not respond immediately. Yes, she said finally. That's what this feels like. The docking sequence initiated without hesitation. A section of the abandoned ship opened as if it had been expecting them, its mechanisms activating with quiet efficiency. He straightened. That did not happen last time. You said it was inactive, the Queen said. It was. A pause. I'm starting to feel like it was waiting for you. No one dismissed that. The ramp extended between the two ships, forming a seamless connection. The air between them equalized instantly, the transition smooth and silent. He did not move. Not yet. Before we go in, he said, glancing at the Queen, I would like to officially state that last time I was here, nothing opened on its own. She stepped toward the ramp. That has changed. He nodded slowly. Yes, I see that. A brief hesitation. Then he followed. The moment his foot touched the surface of the abandoned vessel, something subtle shifted. Not a sound, not a visible movement, just a feeling, like stepping into a place that was no longer empty. He stopped. Okay, he said under his breath. That's new. The interior looked the same as before. Clean, undisturbed, everything exactly where it had been left. Too exact. The air felt different now. Not stale, not unused. Active, aware. He glanced back at the ramp. It was still there, still open. Good, he muttered. Exit remains an option. The Queen moved past him, her steps steady, her focus unbroken. The jacket was still in her hand. He followed again, because apparently that was his role in every situation now. They moved deeper into the ship, the corridors unfolding ahead of them with quiet precision. Lights activated as they passed. Not harsh, but responsive, adjusting to their presence. He frowned. That did not happen before? The Queen slowed slightly. This vessel is not inactive. That's becoming very clear. A panel along the wall flickered as they passed, displaying a brief sequence of symbols before fading again. He stopped, pointing at it. That definitely didn't happen before. The Queen turned toward it, her expression sharpening. Repeat that, she said. The panel remained still. He waited a second. Maybe it's shy. A pause. Or maybe it only responds to people who know what they're doing. She stepped closer, lifting the jacket slightly. The panel reacted instantly. Light spread across its surface, patterns forming rapidly, more complex than before. He stared at it. Okay, I don't like that. The symbols shifted, reorganizing themselves into something more structured. Recognizable, not to him, but to her. Her expression changed again. subtle, but unmistakable. "This is not random," she said. "No," he replied. "It feels very intentional." The panel pulsed once, then extended a thin beam of light toward the jacket. He instinctively stepped back. "That's never a good sign." The beam made contact. Nothing exploded. He relaxed slightly. "Good. We're maintaining our no-explosion streak." The light intensified briefly, scanning the fabric, then retracting. The panel shifted again, this time forming a clear directive. A path. The corridor ahead lit up, a sequence of lights activating one after another, leading deeper into the ship. He stared at it. "That looks like an invitation." The Queen's gaze followed the illuminated path. "It is a guide," she said. He nodded slowly. "I prefer guides that come with explanations." She stepped forward. He sighed. "And I prefer not following mysterious glowing paths in abandoned ships." A pause. "But here we are." He took a breath, then moved after her, the lights ahead continuing to activate, one step at a time, as if the ship itself were leading them somewhere very specific. And for the first time since they had arrived, he was certain of one thing. They were not exploring the ship anymore. The ship was guiding them. The illuminated path did not flicker or hesitate. It continued forward with quiet certainty, each segment activating just before their steps reached it, as if the ship had already calculated their pace, their hesitation, even the moments where he slowed just slightly to look around. He noticed that. "I don't like that it knows how fast I walk," he said. "It is responding to movement," the Queen replied. "That sounds better when you say it like that." A brief pause. "It still feels like it's judging me." She did not answer. They moved deeper into the vessel, the corridors narrowing slightly, becoming more focused, less like general access routes, and more like something designed for purpose. The air felt warmer here, not by temperature, but by presence, like the difference between an empty room and one that had just been occupied. He slowed again. "Last time," he said, keeping his voice low, "this place felt abandoned, completely. No power, no response, nothing." "And now?" she asked. He looked ahead, then at the walls, the subtle movement of light beneath their surfaces. "Now it feels like we're late." That earned him a brief glance from her. Not disagreement, not dismissal. Recognition. The path turned sharply, leading them toward a sealed door, if it could be called that. It was not mechanical in the way he understood doors. No visible hinges, no seams. Just a smooth surface that suggested separation. He stopped a few steps away. That wasn't open before either. The Queen stepped forward without hesitation. The moment she approached, the surface reacted, not by opening, but by shifting. Patterns spread across it, complex and layered, like a lock that required more than a simple command. The jacket in her hand moved slightly. Not by her. He saw it. "Did that just—" "Yes," she said. "Good, as long as we both saw it." The surface extended a thin field of light again, similar to the panel before, but stronger, more focused. It passed over the jacket slowly, scanning it with deliberate precision. Then it stopped. Nothing happened. He exhaled. "Okay, that's not encouraging." The Queen adjusted her grip slightly, holding the jacket closer to the surface. "Try again," she said, though not to him. The system responded instantly, the light returning, scanning once more, this time deeper, more intense. Still nothing. A pause, then the pattern changed, not on the surface, on the jacket. The stitching they had seen before began to glow faintly, the encoded lines revealing themselves under the scan. The light from the surface reacted to it, aligning, synchronizing. He leaned in slightly. "That's new." The glow intensified, spreading across the inner lining, forming a more complete structure, no longer fragmented but connected. The door responded, not by opening, by recognizing. The surface split silently, not into panels, but into space itself, the material retracting in a way that suggested it had never been solid to begin with. Beyond it, a chamber, different from the rest of the ship. Not a corridor, not a storage area. Something else. He did not step forward immediately. "All right," he said quietly. "This is the part where I start questioning my life choices." The Queen entered. He followed. The room was dim, but not inactive. At its center stood a structure, cylindrical, surrounded by faintly rotating rings of light, similar to the device in the palace, but more refined, more personal. He slowed his pace, his usual commentary quieter now. "This wasn't active before," he said. "No," she replied. The jacket in her hand pulsed faintly. The structure responded. The rings began to rotate, slowly at first, then with increasing precision. Light gathered at the center, condensing into something more focused. He stopped completely. "I recognize that pattern," he said. "So do I." The light intensified, and then the projection returned. Stronger this time, more stable. The figure formed again, clearer, though still incomplete. The edges no longer flickered as violently, the shape more defined. A man, not fully visible, but enough. The human took a small step back. "Okay, that's definitely more than before." The Queen did not move. Her gaze locked onto the projection, unblinking. The figure shifted, its head turning slightly, as if adjusting to its own existence. Then the voice came, clearer, still strained. "If you are seeing this, then it worked." The human rubbed the back of his neck. "That's not comforting." "I did not have time to complete the transfer." The projection flickered, but held. "Wait, they are watching everything." The Queen stepped closer. "Who?" she asked. The figure reacted, not to the question, to her. The distortion lessened, just slightly. "You should not be here." Her expression did not change, but something beneath it tightened. "I am here," she said. A pause. Then I failed." The human frowned. "That's not a great opening line." The figure turned slightly, its gaze shifting, not fully, but enough, toward him. "The carrier." He pointed at himself. "That's me, isn't it?" "You were not meant to be involved." He nodded slowly. "That makes two of us." For a brief moment, the projection stabilized further. The face became clearer, and for the first time the connection was undeniable. The Queen's breath caught, not loudly, but enough. He saw it, the resemblance, not exact, but real. "You left this," she said, her voice controlled, but thinner now. "You left it to be found." "I had no choice." The rings around the structure accelerated slightly, the light pulsing unevenly. "The system is compromised. I could not risk direct transmission." The human tilted his head. "So you hid yourself in a jacket?" A pause. "Simplified, but accurate." He nodded. "I appreciate the honesty." The projection flickered again, weaker this time. "Listen carefully. There is more, but not here." The Queen stepped closer. "Where?" The figure hesitated. Then, "They will come." The light surged once. Then, the entire structure pulsed violently. The projection destabilized. The human stepped back instinctively. "That doesn't look good." The lights in the chamber shifted, not dimming, changing, a different pattern, a different response. The ship itself reacted. "We're not alone anymore," he said quietly. The Queen did not turn, but her hand tightened slightly around the jacket, and for the first time since they had entered the vessel, something else had entered with them. The lights did not flicker in panic. They reorganized. That was the unsettling part. The ship was not afraid. It was adjusting, calculating, preparing. He took a slow step back, eyes moving between the projection, the doorway behind them, and the walls that no longer felt passive. "Okay," he said quietly. "This is the part where I would normally suggest we leave." "No," the Queen replied. "Of course not." A pause. "I still felt it was important to suggest it." The projection struggled to stabilize again, its form distorting under the shifting energy of the room. The voice returned, weaker but urgent. "Well, they found the signal?" The human rubbed his forehead. "I'm guessing they are not friendly." "No." The chamber shifted again, a low vibration passing through the structure. Not violent, controlled. like something approaching rather than attacking. The Queen's gaze sharpened. How? The projection flickered. It, the encoding was never fully hidden. It was a risk, he exhaled. So we followed the glowing path, activated the mysterious system, and basically sent out an invitation. No one disagreed. And that sounds like something I would do, he added. The Queen finally turned slightly, her attention splitting between the projection and the corridor beyond. They are not here for you, she said. That is very comforting, he replied. A pause. I assume they are here for you. Yes, he nodded once. That is significantly less comforting. The ship responded again, but this time the reaction was external. A faint distortion appeared along the walls. No, not the walls. Beyond them. Something interacting with the vessel from the outside. He stared at it. I don't like that. They are attempting to access the system, one of the distant interfaces responded, its voice calm and detached. How long do we have? The Queen asked. Limited. He glanced between them. I'm going to need a more specific unit of time. No answer. He sighed. Right. Limited is never good. The projection surged again, as if pushing through the interference. Listen, the rest of the data is not here. We understand that, the Queen said. Where? A pause, then. Inside the system. You already carry? Silence. He blinked. I'm sorry, he said slowly. I carry what? The projection flickered, weakening. The jacket was only the key. The Queen's eyes shifted to him. He looked down at himself instinctively, as if expecting something new to appear. I knew it, he said quietly. I knew this was going to become my problem. The projection struggled to hold. It attached, when you wore it, the remaining sequence. He took a step back. Attached? Yes, the Queen said, her voice steady now but focused. He pointed at himself. Attached where? The projection broke apart slightly, the light fragmenting. Neural imprint. Passive until activated. He froze. You're telling me I've been walking around with part of his message in my head? Yes. A long pause. I feel like that's something I should have been informed about earlier. The projection flickered again, nearly gone now. They cannot take it without you. The human exhaled slowly. That's not reassuring. The chamber shook again, more noticeably this time. The external distortion intensified, pressing closer. They are breaching, the system announced. The Queen stepped toward him. Then we do not let them take it, she said. He blinked. We? You are the only one who can complete the message. He let out a short breath. Of course I am. Another pause. Do I get instructions, or do I just improvise and hope I don't accidentally erase someone's husband? The Queen raised the jacket, placing it back into his hands. Focus, she said. He took it, the familiar weight settling against his palms. But it no longer felt the same. Not just fabric, something else. He closed his eyes for a second, mostly because it felt like the kind of moment where people close their eyes. All right, he muttered. Let's see what's been hiding in my brain. The moment he focused, something shifted, not around him, inside. Fragments surfaced, images, patterns, incomplete thoughts that were not his. A path, a sequence, a final piece that had been waiting. He inhaled sharply. Okay, that's new. Can you access it? The Queen asked. He nodded slowly. I think so. The chamber shook again, the outer hull reacting to whatever was trying to force its way in. Hurry, she said. He stepped forward toward the structure, the jacket still in his hands. The system responded immediately, the rings accelerating, the light intensifying. He focused again, letting the fragments align, letting the Chuzdoi presence guide him without overwhelming him. I see it, he said quietly. The system pulsed. The final sequence connected. And then, the projection returned, not fragmented, whole. The figure stood clearly now. No distortion, no instability. The Queen did not move. You finished it, the figure said. The human exhaled. I did, yes. I would like to note that I did not volunteer for this. A faint shift, something almost like a smile. You did well. The Queen stepped closer. Why? A pause, but because I could not return, not without bringing danger with me. The ship shook again, more violently this time. They are here, the system confirmed. They followed me. I had to disappear, to protect you. Silence. The weight of that settled quickly, the human glance between them. You hid to keep them safe. Yes, the Queen said quietly. The figure nodded. And now, you must leave. The human blinked. Leave? That's your plan? This ship will not hold. He looked around. That sounds accurate. The Queen hesitated, just for a moment. Then she turned. We go, she said. He didn't argue. That surprised him. They moved quickly now, the corridor no longer guiding them, but responding to urgency. The ship around them shifted, systems prioritizing their exit. He glanced back once. Will he? No, the Queen said. A pause. But we understand. He nodded slowly. Yeah. They reached the ramp, the connection between the ships still intact. Barely. The moment they crossed back, the vessel behind them pulsed once, the light collapsing inward. Then, silence. The distortion outside vanished. Gone. Just empty space again. He stood there for a second, breathing slowly, staring at where the ship had been. That was a lot, he said. Yes. A pause. He looked down at the jacket in his hands. I think I'm keeping this, he added. The Queen glanced at him. Why? He shrugged slightly. Feels like it's still part of the story. She studied him for a moment, then nodded once. That is acceptable. He smiled faintly. Good. I would hate to have to negotiate that. The ship began to move again, returning them to something that resembled normal space. He leaned back slightly, exhaling. You know, he said, I came here expecting a simple meeting. You did not receive one. No, he said, I did not. A pause. But I think I understand things better now. The Queen looked at him. How? He thought about it for a moment. Some things don't disappear, he said. They just change form. Wait for the right moment. Another pause. Also, I've learned not to pick up random jackets in space. For the first time, she laughed. Not restrained, not controlled, real.